I still remember the evening when I sat in the living room and looked at the cable bill. The number on the paper was almost $200. My hands felt heavy holding it. I thought about food, rent, and school costs. I thought about how much we worked and how little we saved. My husband was in the kitchen watching sports on the old TV. Our 2 children were on the couch, laughing at cartoons. The sound of the television filled the room, but in my heart I felt no joy. I felt worry. I asked myself, how long can we pay for this? How long before the money runs out? That bill was the moment I knew we had to change. At first we thought cable television was a simple thing. It was our way to relax at the end of the day. The children loved the cartoons and the shows. My husband enjoyed sports and news. I liked to watch movies with my family on weekends. It gave us moments together and some happiness in our small home. But over the years, the price kept rising. One evening, I sat at the kitchen table with the bill in my hands. The number on the paper made me feel sick. It was almost $200. I looked at my husband and said, "We cannot pay this anymore." He looked at me tired and worried. He said, "I know, but what can we do? The kids love it. I need the news. You like the movies. What else do we have?" I felt torn. I wanted to save money, but I also wanted my family to be happy. I thought about our rent, the bills, the food, and the clothes. Every month we had to plan so carefully. Sometimes I had to say no when the children wanted small things. Sometimes I had to wait to buy something for myself. I wanted them to have more, but the truth was, we could not afford everything. The next day at work, I talked with a woman who was older than me. She said she had stopped using cable. She used something called streaming. I did not understand it. I asked her what it meant. She smiled and said, "It is television through the internet. You do not need the big cable company. You only need a smart TV or a small device." Her words stayed in my mind all day. I went home and told my husband. He did not believe it. He said it was too complicated. He said we would not know how to set it up. He said maybe it would not work well. I listened, but I also felt hope. I wanted to try. I wanted to believe there was a way to save money and still give my family what they wanted. That night, when everyone went to sleep, I sat with our old laptop. The light from the screen filled the dark room. I typed words slowly into the search box. How to stop cable TV. Cheap TV for family. Streaming for beginners. Many pages opened. I read them one by one. My English was good, but the words about technology were not simple. I read them again and again. I learned about streaming sticks, smart televisions, and small boxes. I learned about channels with names like Sling and View. The prices were much lower than cable. I felt a mix of fear and joy. Fear because I was not sure I could make it work. Joy because maybe this was the answer to our problem. The next day I spoke again to my husband. I showed him the numbers I found. I said, "Look, We can save more than $100 each month." He looked at me long and hard. He said, "What if it does not work? What if we lose the channels? What if the kids are upset?" I felt my face grow warm. I said, "We will try. Please. We must try." He stayed quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed and said, "All right, but it is your idea. You must do it." It was not easy for me. I was never good with new machines. I had no one to help me, but I loved my family and I wanted to be strong. I wanted my children to see that a mother can learn, can fight, and can save. I spent the next week learning more. Every free minute I searched and read. I watched small videos on the laptop. I asked questions to people at the shop where I worked. Some laughed and said I was late to learn, but I did not care. I was learning for my family. Finally, one Saturday, we went to the big store in town. My husband walked down the rows with me. The children ran from one side to the other. I stopped in front of the televisions. The screen was bright and clear. The sign said, "Smart TV." My hand shook a little as I touched the box. The price was not small, but it was less than 2 months of cable. My husband whispered, "Are you sure?" I looked at him and then at my children. I said, "Yes, I am sure." We put the box in the cart. We also bought a small stick called Roku. When we came home, the children helped us open the box. The smell of new plastic filled the room. We placed the television on the stand and plugged it in. For a moment, nothing happened. My husband frowned. I felt my heart beat fast. Then the screen came alive with color. I picked up the remote. My hand was wet with sweat. I pressed a button. A menu opened with many names and channels. I almost cried with relief. My husband looked surprised. My children jumped with joy. That night we sat together and watched a movie on one of the new channels. The picture was clear. The sound was strong. My husband said, "It is not bad." The children laughed at the cartoon before the movie started. I sat back and felt peace, but I knew this was only the start. We had much to learn. We had to pay for some channels. We had to find the best ones for us. I knew there would be problems. Yet, in that moment, I felt proud. I had taken the first step to save my family money. The next days were not always easy. Sometimes the internet was slow. Sometimes the channels did not load. My husband grew angry and said, "Cable was better." The children shouted when their shows stopped. I had to be the strong one. I told them to wait. I told them it would be better soon. One evening, when the children were in bed, my husband sat with me. He looked tired and said, "I do not like this change, but we are saving money, right?" I showed him the paper with the new bill. It was less than half the old cable. He looked at it and then at me. His eyes softened. He said, "You did this. Thank you." I felt my throat tighten, but I smiled. I said, I did it for us. Before I continue my story, please subscribe, share, and tell me where you are listening from. Your support means a lot to me. Now let's continue. The first weeks with streaming were not simple. We had to learn many new things. The children asked, "Where is our channel? Where is the button for cartoons?" My husband asked, "How do I find the sports?" They all looked at me for answers. I felt pressure, but I tried to stay calm. I spent hours reading about settings and apps. Sometimes I made mistakes. Sometimes I pressed the wrong button and the screen went black. My husband grew upset. He said, "Cable was easy. Why did we change?" I wanted to shout, but I stayed quiet. I told myself, this is for the family. Keep going. One evening, my son cried because he could not find his favorite show. He looked at me with sad eyes and said, "Why did you take it away?" My heart hurt. I hugged him and said, "We will find something even better. Give me time." But inside I felt weak. I wondered if I had done the wrong thing. Still, every time I looked at the new bill, I saw the truth. We were saving more than $100 each month. That money helped us pay for food, shoes, and school supplies. It gave us space to breathe. I told myself that the small problems were worth it. One Saturday, I woke early while the house was still quiet. I made tea and sat with the television. I tried again to learn the menus. Slowly, I began to understand. I added a channel for sports. I added a channel for cartoons. I added movies for weekends. When my family woke, I showed them what I had done. My husband looked at me and smiled a little. My children clapped their hands. For the first time, I felt hope. But the change also brought new fights. My husband wanted to watch one game, and my daughter wanted her show. With cable, we had many channels at once. With streaming, sometimes the internet was too weak. The picture froze. The sound stopped. My husband shouted, "This is useless!" My daughter cried. I felt trapped between them. That night, when everyone went to bed, I sat alone. The house was dark and quiet. I asked myself, why must I always be the one to fight? Why must I carry the weight? But then I thought of the money we saved. I thought of the shoes I bought for my son, the coat I bought for my daughter, and the food on the table. These things came from the sacrifice. I whispered to myself, "It is worth it." The next week, I tried a new plan. I made a schedule for the television. I told my husband, "You can watch sports in the evening." I told my children, "You can watch cartoons after school." They were not always happy, but slowly they began to accept it. The fights became smaller. One evening, my husband came home with a tired face. He sat at the table and opened his wallet. Only a few dollars were inside. He looked at me and said, "Thank you for what you did. Without this change, we would be in debt now." His words touched me deeply. I smiled and said, "We are in this together." But in my heart, I felt strong. For once, my work and my effort were seen. There were still hard days. The internet stopped working one weekend, and the children cried again. My husband grew angry and called the company. They said they would send help, but not until the next day. That night we had no television at all. I thought my family would hate me. But something else happened. We sat in the living room in silence for a few minutes. Then my daughter brought a board game from her room. She said, "Can we play together?" My husband laughed and said, "Why not?" We played until late at night. We talked, we laughed, and we forgot about the television. The next day, when the internet returned, my son said, "That was fun. Can we do it again, even with the TV?" His words warmed my heart. I realized that saving money had also given us something more. It gave us time with each other. One Sunday, I decided to use part of the money we saved. I took my children to the park. We bought ice cream. We played on the swings. They ran and laughed. I sat on the bench and watched them with a smile. I thought, this is what matters. Not the cable, not the shows, but these moments. Later, when we walked home, my son held my hand and said, "Mom, I like the new way." I felt tears in my eyes, but they were happy tears. Still, my husband sometimes missed his old sports channels. He said, "I wish I could watch all the games like before." I answered, "I know, but we cannot afford it." He nodded. He understood, but I could see the sadness in his eyes. One evening he came to me and said, "I am sorry for complaining. I know you are doing your best. I will try to be more patient." His words lifted a heavy weight from my heart. For many weeks, I had felt alone in the fight. Now, at last, he was with me. The children also began to enjoy the new system. They found shows that were not on cable before. They learned to use the remote themselves. Sometimes they even showed me how to find things. I laughed and said, "So now you are the teachers." But deep inside, I still carried fear. What if the bills rose again? What if streaming also became too expensive? What if we could not keep up? Each night I prayed that our small family would stay safe and strong. At the same time, I began to feel proud of myself. I was not only a mother and a wife. I was also the one who found a way out of a problem. I was the one who stood firm when others doubted. That thought gave me strength. One evening we had dinner together. My husband looked around the table and said, "We are doing better. We are saving money, and we are still together. This is because of your idea." My children looked at me and smiled. In that moment, I knew all the hard work was worth it. The first months after cutting the cable were full of change. At the start, my family thought only about what we had lost. My husband said, "I cannot watch every game." My daughter said, "Where is my favorite show?" My son said, "This new TV is strange." I tried to answer each of them with patience. Inside, I felt tired. but I could not give up. Slowly, we began to build new habits. I made small rules to keep peace in the house. In the evening, after dinner, my husband had time for sports. After school, the children had their shows. On weekends, we watched a movie together. At first, they did not like the rules, but over time, they understood that the rules gave everyone a chance. The shouting in the house became less. There were still problems with the internet. Sometimes the picture froze. Sometimes the sound stopped. On one rainy night, the TV turned black in the middle of a movie. The children screamed. My husband stood up angry. He said, "This is why I liked cable. Cable did not stop like this." His words cut me. I wanted to cry. But I stood up and said, "We are saving money. Please remember that." My voice shook, but I stayed strong. The next morning, I woke before everyone. I sat with tea in my hands and looked out the window. I asked myself, did I make life harder for us? Did I take away their comfort? But then I thought about the new shoes I had bought for my son. I thought about the warm jacket I had bought for my daughter. I thought about the money left in the bank at the end of the month. These things were possible only because of the change. That gave me courage to keep going. One Saturday, we had another problem. The internet stopped for the whole day. The children begged for cartoons. My husband wanted to check the news. I called the company and they said they could not fix it until the next day. I was afraid of another night full of anger. But then my daughter brought out a puzzle from her room. She said, "Let's try this." My son joined her. My husband sat with them. At first they worked in silence. Then they laughed when the pieces fit. Hours passed, and no one missed the television. That night, we all went to bed with smiles. I realized then that losing the screen sometimes gave us something better. Over the next months, I tried to use the savings in small but wise ways. I bought fruit for the children, not only bread and rice. I paid the school for a trip my son wanted to join. I bought myself a new pair of shoes after many years. My husband saw these things and said, "You were right. This change is helping us live better." Hearing that made me feel light inside. At the same time, my children began to grow in new ways. They learned how to use the remote without my help. They showed me how to find new movies. They found shows about animals and science. Sometimes I sat with them and learned too. It was not just entertainment anymore. It was learning. That made me proud. One evening, after work, my husband came home tired. He put his bag down and looked around the kitchen. The table had food, the children were laughing, and the television was quiet. He said, "I used to think cable was the only way, but now I see we are fine without it. Maybe even better." I smiled and said, "We are stronger now." Still, there were times when fear returned to me. I read online that streaming prices were rising. I thought, what if one day it is too expensive again? What if we face the same problem? The thought kept me awake some nights. but then I remembered how I had solved it once. I told myself, if I could do it before, I can do it again. For the first time, I truly believed in my own strength. One weekend, we used some of the savings for a small trip to the lake. We packed simple food and drove together. The children played near the water. My husband and I sat on the grass and watched them. The sun was warm and the air was fresh. My husband turned to me and said, "This is better than any sports game on TV." His words stayed with me. In that moment, I felt that every fight, every tear, every long night of learning was worth it. The family also started to see me in a new way. Before, they only saw me as the one who cooked, cleaned, and worked in the shop. Now they also saw me as someone who solved problems. My son once told his friend, "My mom fixed our TV money problem." Hearing that filled me with pride. My daughter said to me one night, "You are smart, Mom." That simple sentence was more precious to me than anything else. As the months turned into a year, life felt calmer. The bills were smaller, and our hearts were lighter. We no longer feared the end of each month. We no longer argued every day. There was still stress, but not as much as before. The sacrifice I made had given us peace. One evening, after dinner, we sat together in the living room. The movie started, but I was not looking at the screen. I looked at my family. My husband was smiling. My children were leaning on each other. The room was full of laughter and light. I thought back to that first day when I had held the heavy cable bill in my hand. That fear was gone now. In its place was pride. I whispered to myself, "We are safe. We are together. That is enough." My name is Olivia. I am 32 years old. I live with my husband Harry and our daughter Emma. We like simple things. We like cooking at home, walking in the park, and spending weekends together. Our favorite day is Saturday because on Saturday we go to the farmer's market. The farmer's market is a special place for us. It is not very big, but it feels alive. The air is full of fresh smells. There are red tomatoes, green beans, yellow apples, and brown bread on the tables. People smile and talk with each other. Children run around with small bags of fruit. Old people stand and talk with the farmers. I always feel warm and happy when I am there. Harry is the most excited about the market. He is not a real chef, but he loves to cook. He always says, "Good food starts with good products." He likes to buy fresh vegetables and herbs. He never buys them in the supermarket because he believes the taste is not the same. He is always smiling when he walks between the stalls, looking at everything like it is treasure. Our daughter Emma is 8 years old. She likes the market too, but for her, the best part is the small bakery stand. The woman there makes sweet cakes with berries on top. Emma always asks for one, and we always say yes. She waits for it all week. When she eats it, her little face shines with joy. Last Saturday, we woke up early. The sun was shining and the sky was clear. Harry said, "It is a perfect market day." We dressed quickly, took our bags, and left the house. The market is only a short walk from our home, so we did not need the car. Emma held my hand, and we talked about what we might buy. When we arrived, the market was already busy. People were talking, laughing, and walking between the stalls. The smell of bread and herbs filled the air. Emma saw the bakery stand and pulled my hand. "Please, Mama, can I have one cake now?" she asked. I laughed and said, "Later. First we buy vegetables." She made a small face, but she agreed. We walked to the end of the market where our favorite farmer, Bill, had his stand. Bill was a kind man with a friendly smile. He knew us well because we came every week. He always said hello to Emma first, and she liked that. "Good morning, Emma. How are you today?" he asked. "I'm good, thank you," she said shyly. "Good morning, Olivia and Harry," Bill said. "It is nice to see you again." Harry smiled. "Good morning, Bill. What is fresh today?" Bill laughed. "Harry, you know that all my products are fresh. Everything here came from the farm this morning." Harry looked at the tables. There were bright red tomatoes, carrots with green tops, yellow onions, and long cucumbers. "It all looks so good," he said. "We will take 2 pounds of tomatoes, 3 pounds of potatoes, and 1 bundle of carrots." Bill started to put the vegetables into a paper bag. "Anything else today?" he asked. Harry thought for a moment. "Do you have figs?" Bill shook his head. "No, they do not grow here, but I have very sweet apples this week." "Then we will take some apples too," I said. Bill smiled. "Good choice. The apples are perfect now." He weighed everything and told us the price. "That will be $6. Harry gave him the money, and Bill gave us the bags. "See you next week," he said. After that, we went to the herb table. Harry picked fresh parsley, basil, and thyme. He smelled each one and said, "This will make our dinner special." I liked to see him so happy. Cooking was his joy, and the market gave him energy. When we finished buying vegetables, it was finally time for Emma's cake. She almost ran to the bakery stand. The woman there, Mrs. Green, knew Emma well. "Here comes my little helper," she said with a laugh. She always called Emma her helper because Emma liked to choose the cakes very carefully. "This one," Emma said, pointing at a small round cake with blueberries on top. Mrs. Green wrapped it in paper and gave it to her. "Thank you," Emma said politely. We all sat on a bench near the market square. Emma ate her cake slowly, enjoying every bite. Harry and I shared a small loaf of fresh bread. It was warm and soft, and the smell was amazing. We talked about what we would cook for dinner that evening. Harry said, "I will make tomato soup with fresh herbs." I said, "And maybe a potato salad too." Emma licked her fingers and said, "Can I help you cook?" Harry smiled. "Of course, my little chef." The morning passed quickly. We looked at more stalls, bought some cheese and eggs, and talked to other people from the neighborhood. Everyone seemed happy to be outside in the sun, enjoying the simple things. As we walked home, our bags were full, and our hearts felt light. Emma walked between us, holding both our hands. The market had given us not only food, but also joy. Harry looked at me and said softly, "This is my favorite day." I smiled back. Mine too. But what we did not know was that this Saturday would bring us a small surprise, something that would make the market even more special for us. Before I continue my story, please subscribe, share, and tell me where you are listening from. Your support means a lot to me. Now let's continue. The walk back home from the market was slow and happy. Emma was still talking about her cake, and Harry was already planning our dinner. The sun was warm, and the air smelled like flowers from the gardens along the street. I looked at my family and felt thankful. Saturdays always felt like a gift. When we reached home, Harry placed the bags on the kitchen table. He started to take out the vegetables one by one. Tomatoes, potatoes, carrots, apples, and herbs filled the table with color. Emma stood on a chair beside him. "Papa, can I wash the tomatoes?" she asked. Harry smiled. "Yes, my little chef, but be careful with the water." Emma carefully washed each tomato and placed it in a bowl. She was proud to help. I cut the carrots into small sticks and gave her a piece. She ate it quickly and said, "It is sweet." Harry laughed. "That is why we buy from Bill. Everything tastes better." While Harry cooked, I cleaned the living room. The window was open, and I could hear Emma asking questions. "Papa, why do we put basil in the soup? Why is parsley green and not red? Can I stir the pot?" Harry answered each question with patience. Cooking with Emma always made him happy. At noon, we sat down to eat. The soup was rich and warm. The potato salad was simple but full of flavor. We also had fresh bread and cheese from the market. Emma said, "This is the best lunch ever." I agreed. It was not just the food, it was the feeling of being together. After lunch, we rested in the living room. Emma drew pictures of vegetables on her paper. She drew a big red tomato with a green top and smiled. "This is Bill's tomato," she said. Harry looked at her picture and clapped. "That is a good tomato, my little artist." In the afternoon, we decided to go back to the market square. On Saturdays, there were sometimes small events like music or dancing. We wanted to see if something was happening. When we arrived, a man was playing the guitar under a tree. People sat on benches and listened. Children danced near the fountain. The air was full of music and laughter. Emma ran to play with other children. Harry and I sat down to watch the music. I saw Bill, the farmer, walking across the square. He carried a basket, and his face looked worried. I stood up and went to him. "Bill, is everything all right?" I asked. He sighed. "Not really. One of my workers could not come today. I still have boxes of apples at the truck, and I cannot carry them all to the stall. I am afraid I will lose sales." I looked at Harry. He stood up quickly. "We can help," he said. "Show us where the truck is." Bill looked surprised. "Are you sure? It is heavy work." Harry laughed. I cook, but I am also strong. We followed Bill to his truck near the entrance of the square. Inside were many boxes of apples, each one shining red and gold. Emma came running after us. Can I help too? She asked. Bill smiled kindly. You can carry the small bag. Together we carried the boxes to the stand. It took some time, but soon all the apples were on the table. Bill looked at us with gratitude. Thank you so much. I could not have done this alone. Harry wiped his forehead. We are happy to help. You give us good food every week. It is the least we can do. Bill thought for a moment, then gave Emma a small bag of apples. For you, my little helper, he said. Emma's eyes lit up. Thank you, Bill. The rest of the afternoon passed quickly. More people came to buy apples, and Bill was busy. Emma played near the stand, talking to other children. I stood with Harry, watching him smile at everyone. I thought again how much he loved this place. Later, Bill came to us again. His face was softer now. You know, he said, when I was young, I worked on the farm with my father. We always believed that food was not just food. It was also love and family. Today, you showed me that again. His words touched me. It was true. The market was not only about vegetables. It was about people caring for each other. When the sun began to go down, we said goodbye to Bill and the other sellers. Emma held her bag of apples close. We walked home slowly, enjoying the golden light of the evening. At home, Emma wanted to make apple pie. She said, Bill gave me these apples. We must make something special. Harry agreed. Then we will bake together. We cut the apples into thin slices. Emma mixed sugar and cinnamon in a bowl. Harry made the dough. The kitchen smelled sweet and warm. When the pie was ready, we all sat at the table again. The crust was golden, and the apples were soft and sweet. Emma took a bite and closed her eyes. This is the best pie, she whispered. After dinner, we sat in the living room. The day had been long but full of joy. Emma lay on the sofa with a book. Harry and I drank tea. I looked at him and said, This was a special day. He nodded. Yes, because we shared it together. But the story of that Saturday was not finished yet. As we were cleaning the kitchen, the doorbell rang. It was late, and we were surprised. Harry opened the door, and there stood Bill. He looked tired but happy. I know it is late, he said, but I wanted to thank you again. You saved me today. I want to give you something. He held out a small wooden box. Inside were seeds of different herbs. These are from my farm. Plant them in your garden, and you will always have fresh herbs. Harry was touched. He shook Bill's hand. Thank you. This means a lot to me. Emma clapped her hands. Now we can grow our own basil and parsley. Bill smiled and left. We closed the door and looked at the box. It felt like more than just seeds. It felt like friendship. That night, before going to bed, Emma said, "Mama, I like the farmer's market. It is not just about food. It is about friends too." Her words were simple, but they were true. The next week, we would plant the seeds together. But even before that, the memory of that Saturday stayed in our hearts. It was not just another market day. It was the day we became part of something bigger. And as I lay in bed, I thought about it. Life is not made only of big events. It is made of small moments like this, moments full of love, family, and kindness. The week after that special Saturday, our home was full of new energy. The small wooden box with herb seeds sat on our kitchen counter. Every time I looked at it, I remembered Bill's words and his smile. It felt like more than a gift. It felt like a promise for the future. Harry could not stop talking about it. "We must plant them this weekend," he said each evening. He looked at the seeds like they were treasures. Emma was also very excited. "I will water them every day," she promised. I felt happy to see my family so full of joy over something so simple. On Friday evening, we prepared for the big day. Harry bought soil and small pots from the shop near our house. Emma cleaned the balcony carefully. She said, "The plants will live here, so it must be clean." I helped her sweep the floor, and we placed the pots in a sunny spot. Everything was ready for Saturday. When Saturday came, the sky was blue again. It felt like the weather wanted to be part of our plan. We ate a quick breakfast, then opened the wooden box. Inside were small paper bags with names written on them: basil, parsley, thyme, and mint. Emma read them slowly, proud that she could read all the names. Harry explained each one to her. Basil is soft and sweet. It is perfect for tomato soup. Parsley is fresh and green, good for salad. Thyme has a strong smell. It makes meat taste better. And mint is cool and sweet, good for tea. Emma listened carefully, as if he was telling her a secret. We planted the seeds together. Harry showed Emma how to make small holes in the soil. She dropped the seeds gently inside, then covered them with earth. I poured water carefully. "They are sleeping now," Emma said softly. "But soon they will wake up." The balcony looked different with the pots lined up. It felt alive. Harry stood back and smiled. "Now we will wait, and soon we will have our own herbs." After planting, we walked to the market again. We wanted to tell Bill what we had done. The market was as busy as always. People carried bags full of vegetables, children laughed near the fountain, and the smell of bread filled the air. We found Bill at his stand. Emma ran to him. "We planted the seeds," she said proudly. Bill laughed. "That is good news. Take care of them, and they will give you joy." Harry thanked him again. "Your gift means a lot to us," he said. Bill looked at him kindly. "Food is not only about eating. It is about sharing and giving. I see that you understand. We bought more vegetables and fruit, then visited Mrs. Green's bakery stand. Emma chose her usual cake, but this time she also picked one for Bill. She gave it to him shyly. "This is for you," she said. Bill smiled with surprise. "Thank you, Emma. You are very kind." That small act made me proud. I could see Emma learning about kindness, just like she learned about cooking. When we returned home, Harry made lunch again. We ate fresh salad, bread, and soup. Afterward, we all sat on the balcony, looking at the pots. The soil was still dark and quiet, but we knew that life was hidden inside. In the days that followed, Emma checked the pots every morning. She watered them carefully and spoke to them. "Wake up, little seeds," she whispered. After 1 week, small green shoots appeared. Emma screamed with joy. "They are alive!" she shouted. Harry came running and hugged her. "Yes, they are growing." Day by day, the herbs grew taller. The balcony became green, and the air smelled fresh. Emma was proud of her garden. She told her teacher at school about it, and even her friends wanted to come and see. One Saturday, a month later, we decided to bring some of our herbs to Bill. We cut a small bunch of parsley and basil and wrapped them in paper. Emma carried them in her hands carefully, like they were flowers. When we reached the market, Emma gave them to Bill. "These are from our garden," she said. Bill's eyes grew soft. "You have done well," he said. "Your balcony is now part of my farm." His words made us smile. That day, something special happened at the market. There was a cooking contest in the square. People could cook dishes with products from the farmers. The winner would get a basket of food. Harry's eyes lit up when he heard about it. "I must try," he said. Emma clapped. "Yes, Papa, you can win." I laughed. "All right, let us see what you can do." Harry chose tomatoes, onions, and parsley. He decided to make a simple tomato soup, his favorite. Emma stood beside him, handing him things like a real assistant. I watched with pride as they worked together. Other people cooked too. There were salads, pies, and roasted vegetables. The air was full of delicious smells. A small group of judges walked around, tasting each dish. When they came to Harry's table, he gave them bowls of his soup. They tasted it carefully, then whispered to each other. Finally, the winner was announced. "The best dish is the tomato soup made by Harry." The crowd clapped and cheered. Emma jumped up and down, shouting, "Papa won! Papa won!" Harry smiled widely, his face full of joy. The prize was a big basket full of fresh vegetables, bread, cheese, and fruit. Bill was one of the judges, and he shook Harry's hand. "Your soup was full of flavor and love," he said. We carried the basket home together. It was heavy, but our hearts were light. Emma kept talking about the contest. "Papa is the best chef," she said again and again. Harry laughed and said, "No, I am just a hobby chef. But today was fun." That evening, we used the prize food to make a big dinner. We invited our neighbors to join us. We cooked soup, salad, and apple pie. Everyone sat together, talking and laughing. The balcony door was open, and the smell of herbs came inside. As we ate, I looked around the table. Friends, family, and neighbors all together. Plates full of food, glasses full of water, and hearts full of joy. I thought about Bill's words again. Food is not only about eating, it is about sharing and giving. When the evening ended and everyone went home, Emma came to me and said, "Mama, today was the best day. We planted, we cooked, we won, and we shared." I kissed her head. "Yes, my dear. And we will have many more days like this." Later, when Harry and I sat on the balcony with cups of tea, the small green herbs moved softly in the night wind. Harry held my hand. "This market, these people, this little garden, it all makes life better," he said. I nodded. "Yes, it is our happy day at the market, and it will always be." And so, what started as a simple Saturday visit to buy tomatoes and potatoes became more than just a habit. It became a part of our life, our story, and our joy. The farmer's market was no longer only a place to buy food. It was a place where we found kindness, friendship, and love. Thank you for listening to my story. Did you enjoy this happy day with us at the market? Please like this video and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe for more emotional English stories.